Why had Emily been so distant in the weeks before my fall? Why had she insisted on increasing my life insurance policy, doubling the payout in case of accidental death? Why had she started locking her phone, whispering in the kitchen, disappearing for hours at a time? Why had she pushed me? I started to dig. I started to ask questions, to look for answers, to piece together the fragments of a life that no longer felt like my own. I found emails, text messages, bank statements. I found secrets. I found lies. I found a version of Emily I had never known, a woman driven by desperation, by fear, by greed. But I'm getting ahead of myself. If you're still with me, if you're still listening, I want you to do something for me. I want you to tell me where you're listening from in the comments below. I want you to tell me if you've ever trusted someone so completely, only to have that trust shattered. And if you believe that the truth is always worth fighting for, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories like this. Because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's a story about survival. It's a story about what happens when the person you love most becomes your greatest enemy. It's a story about waking up in a world that no longer makes sense and finding the strength to keep going, to keep searching, to keep fighting for the truth. I spent the first night back in our house, wandering from room to room, haunted by the ghosts of a life that had ended twice, once at the bottom of the stairs and again at the edge of a grave. The house was too quiet, every creak and sigh of the old floorboards a reminder of Emily's absence. Her perfume still lingered in the bedroom, a faint trace of lavender and something sharper, almost metallic. I found myself standing in the doorway, staring at the unmade bed, the half-open closet, the row of shoes lined up with military precision. It was as if she might walk in at any moment, humming under her breath, pretending nothing had changed. But everything had changed. I was a stranger in my own life, a man returned from the dead to find the world had moved on without him. The sympathy cards were stacked on the kitchen table, unopened. The fridge was full of casseroles and sympathy meals, each one a silent testament to the kindness of neighbors who didn't know the truth. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I could barely breathe. The nightmare started that first night. I dreamed of falling over and over, the sensation of weightlessness giving way to bone-shattering impact. I dreamed of Emily's face, twisted in anger, her hands shoving me into the void. I woke up drenched in sweat, my heart pounding, my body aching in places the doctors hadn't found. I lay in the darkness, listening to the house settle, and wondered if I would ever feel safe again. In the days that followed, I tried to piece together the last weeks of Emily's life. I called her friends, her coworkers, her sister. I listened to their stories, their memories, their carefully chosen words. They all said the same things. Emily was devoted, loving, a little stressed, maybe, but who wouldn't be with everything that had happened? No one mentioned the distance, the coldness, the way she had started to pull away. No one mentioned the late-night phone calls, the whispered arguments, the sudden, inexplicable anger. I found her phone in the drawer of her nightstand, tucked beneath a stack of old receipts and birthday cards. The screen was locked, but Emily had never been good with passwords. It took me 3 tries: our anniversary, her mother's birthday, the name of our dog. The last one worked. The phone unlocked with a soft chime, and suddenly I was holding a piece of her life I had never seen before. The messages were the first clue. There were dozens of texts to a number I didn't recognize, each one more frantic than the last. He's asking questions. I can't keep this up much longer. The policy is in place. Just a little longer. My hands shook as I scrolled through the conversations, piecing together a story I hadn't known I was living. There were calls, too, late at night, always the same number, always just a few minutes long. I tried calling it, but it went straight to voicemail, a robotic voice with no name, no clues. I took the phone to the police, my heart pounding in my chest. I told them about the fall, about the messages, about the feeling in my gut that something was terribly wrong. They listened, nodding, taking notes, but I could see the doubt in their eyes. It was an accident, they said. Your wife is gone. Maybe it's time to let her rest. But I couldn't let it go. I couldn't let her rest, not when the truth was still out there, waiting to be found. I started to dig deeper. I went through our bank statements, our insurance policies, our emails. I found the paperwork for the new life insurance policy, signed just 2 weeks before my fall. The payout was double in the event of accidental death, triple if the death was ruled a homicide. Emily had insisted on it, saying she wanted to make sure I was taken care of, no matter what happened. I remembered the way she smiled as she handed me the pen, the way her hand trembled just a little as I signed my name. I found receipts for things I didn't recognize, hotel rooms, expensive dinners, gifts I never received. I found emails from a lawyer I'd never met, discussing the terms of a will I hadn't known existed. I found a letter, tucked into the back of her desk drawer, addressed to someone named A. The letter was short, hurried, full of fear. "It's almost done? I just need to get him to sign. After that, we're free." I sat in the darkness, the letter trembling in my hands, and realized I had never really known my wife at all. I had loved a stranger, trusted a ghost. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone I couldn't recognize, someone capable of murder. But I wasn't the only one searching for answers. Someone else was watching me, following me, waiting for me to slip. I saw the same car parked across the street every night, the same shadow moving behind the curtains. I started to feel like a prisoner in my own home, trapped by secrets I didn't understand. I tried to convince myself it was paranoia, a side effect of trauma and sleepless nights, but the feeling only grew stronger. Every time I left the house, I felt eyes on me. At the grocery store, a man in a gray jacket seemed to linger in every aisle I visited. At the pharmacy, a woman with a clipboard watched me from the corner, pretending to read a magazine. Even at the cemetery, when I visited Emily's grave, I caught glimpses of a figure standing by the old oak tree, always just out of focus, always gone when I turned to look. I started keeping a journal, writing down every detail, every strange encounter, every car that seemed to follow me for more than a block. I took photos of license plates, recorded the times and dates, tried to build a case out of shadows and suspicion. I knew how it sounded. Crazy, desperate, the ramblings of a man who couldn't let go. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being hunted, that the story wasn't over, that Emily's secrets had teeth. One night, as I was locking up the house, I heard a noise outside, a soft scrape, like someone dragging their foot across the driveway. I peered through the blinds and saw a figure standing at the edge of the yard, half hidden by the darkness. My heart hammered in my chest as I reached for my phone, but by the time I looked back, the figure was gone. I called the police, but they found nothing. No footprints, no evidence, just the empty hush of midnight. The next morning, I found an envelope taped to my front door. There was no name, no return address, just a single sheet of paper inside. On it, in blocky, uneven letters, was a message. "Stop digging. Let the dead rest." My hands shook as I read it, the words burning into my mind. Someone knew I was looking for answers. Someone wanted me to stop. But I couldn't stop. Not now. Not when I was so close to the truth. I took the letter to the police, but they dismissed it as a prank, a cruel joke played on a grieving widower. I could see the pity in their eyes, the way they looked at me like I was broken, fragile, a man unraveling at the seams. But I wasn't unraveling. I was waking up. I started to retrace Emily's last days, piecing together her movements, her phone calls, her meetings. I visited the hotel where she'd stayed, the restaurant where she'd dined, the lawyer's office where she'd signed the will. At every stop, I found traces of her, receipts, security footage, signatures, but I also found something else. A man, always just out of frame, always watching. He appeared in the background of the hotel lobby, the restaurant parking lot, the lawyer's waiting room, tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar running down his left cheek. I didn't recognize him, but he seemed to know me. I took the photos to the police, but they shrugged. "Coincidence," they said, "a stranger passing through." But I knew better. I could feel the connection, the invisible thread tying us together. Whoever he was the key to Emily's secrets. I started to dig into her phone records, her emails, her social media. I found messages from the same number, always short, always urgent. "Meet me at the usual place. He's getting suspicious. We need to move fast." I traced the number to a burner phone, registered under a fake name. The trail went cold, but the questions burned hotter than ever. One night, as I was reviewing the footage from our home security cameras, I saw him, the man with the scar. He was standing at the edge of our yard, staring up at the house, his face half hidden by the shadows. He didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. I felt a chill run down my spine, a primal fear I couldn't explain. I called the police again, but by the time they arrived, he was gone. I started to wonder if I was losing my mind. The doctors had warned me about the effects of trauma, the way the brain can play tricks, conjure ghosts out of grief and guilt. But this was different. This was real. I could feel it in my bones, the way you feel a storm coming, the way you know something is wrong, even when you can't prove it. I decided to confront the fear head on. I started leaving the house at odd hours, driving aimlessly through the city, watching for the car that always seemed to follow. I changed my routines, took different routes, doubled back on my tracks. No matter what I did, the feeling persisted, the sense of being watched, hunted, marked. One night, as I was driving through the empty streets, I saw headlights in my rearview mirror, following me turn for turn. I sped up, weaving through side streets, trying to lose them. But the car stayed with me, matching my every move. Finally, I pulled into a crowded gas station, heart pounding, hands shaking. The car slowed, paused at the entrance, then drove away. I stood there, gasping for breath, staring after the taillights as they disappeared into the night. I knew, in that moment, that I was in danger, that Emily's secrets hadn't died with her, that someone wanted me to stop digging, or else. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with the lights off, clutching a baseball bat, listening to every creak and groan of the house. My mind replayed every moment of the last few weeks, searching for something I'd missed, a clue, a warning, a sign that could explain how my life had unraveled so completely. I thought about Emily, about the woman I'd loved and the stranger she'd become. I wondered if she'd ever truly loved me, or if our entire marriage had been a lie, a long con leading up to that final, fatal push. As dawn crept through the windows, painting the walls with pale gold, I made a decision. I'd lost weight, lost my appetite, lost the easy confidence I once carried through the world. I was a man on the edge, clinging to the last threads of sanity, driven by a need for answers that felt more like a curse than a quest. But I couldn't stop. Every new piece of evidence, every strange encounter, every memory of Emily's last days pushed me further down the rabbit hole. I started to notice patterns in the chaos. The man with the scar wasn't just following me. He was watching my every move, always one step ahead, always just out of reach. I saw him at the grocery store, at the gas station, even at the park, where Emily and I used to walk our dog. He never approached, never spoke, just watched. It was as if he was waiting for something, some signal, some moment when I would finally break. I tried to talk to my friends, to explain what was happening, but they looked at me with pity, their eyes full of concern and doubt. "You've been through a lot, Dan," they said. "Maybe you should talk to someone. A therapist, maybe, someone who can help you process all this." But I didn't need a therapist. I needed the truth. I needed to know why my wife had tried to kill me, why she died so suddenly, and who the man with the scar really was. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat on the porch with a cup of cold coffee, staring out at the empty street. The world felt distant, unreal, as if I was living in a dream I couldn't wake from. I thought about Emily, about the life we'd built together, about the promises we'd made. I wondered if any of it had been real, or if I'd been living in a carefully constructed illusion from the very beginning. That's when I heard the footsteps, soft, deliberate, approaching from the side of the house. I set my coffee down, heart pounding, and reached for the baseball bat I kept by the door. The footsteps stopped, and for a moment there was only silence. Then a voice, low and rough, called out from the shadows, "Daniel, we need to talk." I stepped onto the porch, bat in hand, and saw him, the man with the scar, standing at the edge of the light, his face half hidden in shadow. He raised his hands, palms open, a gesture of peace. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "I just want to talk." I didn't lower the bat. "Who are you? Why have you been following me?" He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder as if checking for unseen watchers. "My name is Alex. I knew your wife. We worked together a long time ago." His voice was tense. wary, as if every word was a risk. Emily got involved with some dangerous people, people who don't like loose ends. I felt a cold knot form in my stomach. What are you talking about? Alex stepped closer, his eyes scanning the street. She was in trouble, Daniel. Deep trouble. She tried to get out, but it was too late. They threatened her, threatened you. That's why she did what she did. I shook my head, struggling to process his words. She tried to kill me. She pushed me down the stairs. He nodded, his expression grim. She thought it was the only way to protect you. If you died, the insurance money would pay off her debts. If you survived, they'd come after both of you. She was desperate. I lowered the bat, my hands trembling. Why are you telling me this? Quote. Alex looked me in the eye, his gaze steady and unflinching. Because you're in danger. They know you're digging. They know you're getting close. If you don't stop, they'll finish what Emily started. I stared at him, my mind racing. Who are they? He shook his head. It's better if you don't know. Just leave town, Daniel. Start over. Forget about Emily. Forget about the past. It's the only way you'll survive. He turned to go, melting into the shadows as quickly as he'd appeared. I stood on the porch, the bat hanging limply at my side, and realized I was more alone than ever. The truth was out there, just beyond my reach, but every step closer put me in greater danger. That night, I made a choice. I wasn't going to run. I wasn't going to hide. I was going to find the truth, no matter the cost. I barely slept, but when I did, my dreams were a tangle of memories and warnings. I saw Emily's face, pale and desperate, her eyes pleading with me to forgive her. I saw Alex's scar, the way it twisted his expression into something both haunted and determined. I saw myself at the bottom of the stairs, broken and gasping, reaching for a hand that never came. When I woke, the sun was already high, and the house felt smaller, as if the walls themselves were closing in. I spent the morning reviewing everything I'd collected. The texts, the emails, the insurance documents, the letter to, quote, A, the photos of Alex lurking in the background. I tried to make sense of it all, to find the thread that would tie it together. Emily's debts, the sudden change in her behavior, the mysterious phone calls, the threats. It all pointed to something bigger than just a desperate woman and a failed marriage. It pointed to a conspiracy, a web of secrets that stretched far beyond the walls of our home. I decided to visit the bank where Emily had opened a new account just weeks before her death. The manager, a woman named Ms. Patel, greeted me with a polite smile, but I could see the suspicion in her eyes. I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. Carter. How can I help you today? I explained that I was trying to settle Emily's affairs, that I needed to know about any recent transactions. She hesitated, glancing at her computer screen. There were several large withdrawals in the days before her accident, cash mostly, and a wire transfer to an account in the Cayman Islands. My heart sank. Do you have the details of the transfer? She nodded, printing out a sheet of paper and sliding it across the desk. This is all I can give you without a court order. I'm sorry. I thanked her, tucking the paper into my pocket, and left the bank with a new sense of urgency. Emily hadn't just been running from her problems. She'd been trying to buy her way out. I called Alex, using the number he'd scrawled on the back of a business card before he disappeared into the night. He answered on the first ring, his voice tense. What did you find? I told him about the bank, the wire transfer, the account in the Caymans. There was a long pause. That's bad, he said finally. That means they're getting ready to disappear. If you want answers, you need to move fast. Who are they, Alex? Who was Emily working for? He sighed, the sound heavy with regret. It's a group called the Meridian Trust. On the surface, they're a financial consulting firm. But underneath, they're into everything. Money laundering, insurance fraud, blackmail. Emily got in over her head. She thought she could outsmart them, but nobody does. I felt a chill run down my spine. Why did she push me? Why not just leave? Because they threatened you. They told her if she didn't deliver, they'd come after you. She thought if you died, at least the money would keep you safe. She didn't know they'd never let either of you go. I sat in my car, staring at the dashboard, trying to process it all. My wife had tried to kill me to save me. She died trying to escape a trap she'd set for herself. And now I was caught in the same web. What do I do? I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. Meet me tonight, Alex said. There's something you need to see. He gave me an address. A warehouse on the edge of town, abandoned for years. Come alone, and be careful, they're watching. I spent the rest of the day preparing. I packed a bag with the flash drive, the documents, a change of clothes, and a burner phone. I left a note on the kitchen table, just in case. If anything happens to me, look in the garage. The truth is there. As night fell, I drove to the warehouse, my heart pounding with every mile. The streets were empty, the city silent, as if holding its breath. I parked a block away, moving through the shadows, every sense on high alert. Alex was waiting inside, his face drawn and pale in the dim light. He handed me a folder, thick with documents. This is everything, the names, the accounts, the evidence. It's enough to bring them down, if you survive long enough to use it. I took the folder from Alex, my hands trembling as I flipped through the pages. There were bank statements, offshore account numbers, emails between Emily and someone named M. Turner, and a list of names. Some I recognized from the news, others I'd never heard before. There were photos, too. Grainy surveillance shots of men in suits exchanging briefcases, Emily sitting in a cafe with a woman whose face was always turned away from the camera, Alex himself in the background of a crowded airport terminal. The deeper I looked, the more I realized how far this went. This wasn't just about Emily. This was about a network, a machine that chewed up desperate people and spat them out when they were no longer useful. Alex watched me, his eyes hard. You see now? This is why I followed you. I had to make sure you weren't working for them. I had to make sure you were just lost. He paused, rubbing the scar on his cheek. Emily was smart, but she was scared. She tried to play both sides, but Meridian doesn't forgive. They don't forget. I looked up at him, the weight of the evidence pressing down on me. Why are you helping me, Alex? Why risk your life for a stranger? He hesitated, then looked away. Emily saved my life once, years ago, before all this. I owed her. I thought maybe, if I could help you, I could pay that debt. His voice was rough, almost ashamed. But you need to understand, Daniel. Once you have this, you can't go back. They'll come for you. They'll come for anyone you care about. A cold dread settled in my chest. What do I do with it? Quote, Alex's answer was immediate. Go to the press. Not the police, not the government. Meridian has people everywhere. But if you can get this to a reporter, someone with reach, someone who can't be bought, then maybe, just maybe, you can bring them down. I nodded, tucking the folder into my bag. What about you? He shook his head. I'll disappear. I've done it before. But you, be careful. Trust no one. Not even me. A sudden noise echoed through the warehouse. A door slamming. Footsteps on concrete. Alex's eyes widened. They're here. Go now! He shoved me toward a side exit, drawing a pistol from his jacket. Don't look back, Daniel. Run! I bolted through the shadows, heart hammering, the folder clutched to my chest. I heard shouts behind me, the sharp crack of gunfire, the screech of tires outside. I ducked behind a dumpster, breath coming in ragged gasps, and watched as two men in dark suits dragged Alex out of the warehouse, his hands bound behind his back. He caught my eye for a split second, and in that moment I saw a silent plea. Run, survive, finish this. I waited until the cars sped away, then slipped into the night, every nerve on fire. I drove home in a daze, checking my mirrors every few seconds, convinced I was being followed. When I finally reached my house, I locked every door, pulled the curtains tight, and collapsed onto the floor, the folder still clutched in my hands. I spent the next hours poring over the evidence, piecing together the story Emily had tried to hide. The emails revealed a timeline. Emily had been recruited by Meridian 2 years earlier, lured by promises of easy money and a way out of our mounting debts. At first, it was small things. Moving money, signing documents, making introductions. But as the stakes grew, so did the danger. When she tried to back out, they threatened her, threatened me. The insurance policy was their idea, a way to cash out if things went wrong. The final email from Emily to M. Turner was short, desperate. I can't do this anymore. He's asking questions. I'm scared. The reply was chilling. Finish it, or we finish you. I sat in the darkness, the weight of the truth crushing me. Emily hadn't just betrayed me. She'd been trapped, manipulated, destroyed by forces far beyond her control. And now, those same forces were coming for me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table, the folder spread out before me, the house silent, except for the ticking of the old clock on the wall. Every so often, I'd get up and check the locks, peer through the curtains, scan the street for headlights or shadows. My mind raced with possibilities. What if they were already watching? What if they knew I had the evidence? What if Alex was dead, or worse, being tortured for information about me? I tried to focus on the task at hand. I needed a plan. I needed to get the evidence to someone who could do something with it, someone Meridian couldn't buy or silence. I thought about the reporters I'd seen on TV, the ones who broke stories about corruption and crime, the ones who seemed fearless. I remembered a name, Samantha Reyes, an investigative journalist who'd exposed a major banking scandal the year before. I found her email address online, typed out a message with shaking hands. I have information about a criminal organization. I need to meet. It's urgent. Please respond. I attached a few redacted documents as proof, then hit send and waited, my heart pounding. The hours crawled by. I drank cup after cup of coffee, my nerves fraying with every passing minute. Just after dawn, my phone buzzed. A reply from Samantha. Meet me at 10 a.m. at the Bluebird Cafe. Come alone. Bring everything. Relief and fear washed over me in equal measure. I packed the folder, the flash drive, and my burner phone into a backpack, then showered and dressed in the most nondescript clothes I could find. The drive to the cafe was a blur. I checked my mirrors constantly, convinced I was being followed. Every car seemed suspicious, every pedestrian a potential threat. When I arrived, I parked 2 blocks away and walked the rest of the distance, scanning the street for anything out of place. The Bluebird Cafe was small and quiet, the kind of place where people came to disappear. I spotted Samantha immediately. Short, sharp-eyed, with a notebook open in front of her and a cup of black coffee steaming at her elbow. She looked up as I approached, her gaze assessing. Daniel Carter? I nodded, sliding into the booth across from her. You said you had something important. I handed her the folder, my hands trembling. My wife was killed. They tried to kill me too. This is why. She flipped through the documents, her expression growing more serious with every page. This is big, she murmured. Really big. If this is real, it could bring down half the city. She looked up at me, her eyes hard. But it's dangerous. Meridian has people everywhere. If they know you're talking to me... I know, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But I can't run anymore. I need the truth to come out. I need people to know what happened to Emily. Samantha nodded, closing the folder. I'll need to verify everything. It'll take time. But I promise you I'll get the story out. You need to be careful, Daniel. They won't stop until you're silenced. We agreed on a plan. She would go dark, work from a secure location, contact me only through encrypted messages. I would lay low, avoid any patterns, trust no one. As I left the cafe, I felt a strange mix of hope and terror. For the first time since Emily's death, I felt like I was fighting back. But Meridian wasn't finished with me yet. The next few days passed in a haze of anxiety and anticipation. I barely left the house, only venturing out for groceries at odd hours, always looking over my shoulder. Samantha sent me a single, encrypted message each night. Still working. Be patient. Stay safe. I tried to distract myself with mundane tasks, laundry, dishes, organizing the garage, but my mind kept circling back to Emily, to Alex, to the shadowy network that had upended my life. On the 4th night, I woke to the sound of glass shattering downstairs. My heart leapt into my throat. I grabbed the baseball bat and crept down the stairs, every muscle tense. The kitchen window was broken, shards of glass glittering on the floor. The back door was ajar, swinging in the wind. I flicked on the lights and scanned the room. Nothing seemed missing, but a cold dread settled in my gut. Someone had been here, Someone had sent a message. I called the police, but they were dismissive. "Probably just a break-in, sir." "Happens all the time?" They took a report, dusted for prints, and left me standing in the kitchen, more alone than ever. I checked the garage. The flash drive was still hidden, undisturbed. But I knew it was only a matter of time before Meridian found me. The next morning, Samantha called. Her voice was urgent, strained. "Daniel, you need to get out. Now. I've been followed. My apartment was ransacked last night. They know I'm on to them. I'm going to publish what I have, but you can't stay at your house. It's not safe." Panic surged through me. Where do I go? Quote, "There's a safe house on the edge of town. I'll text you the address. Go now. Don't tell anyone. Don't use your phone. Just go." I packed a bag in minutes. Clothes, the flash drive, the folder, a few $100s in cash. I left the house without looking back, driving through side streets and back roads, doubling back twice to make sure I wasn't being followed. The safe house was a small, nondescript bungalow surrounded by overgrown hedges. I let myself in with the key Samantha had left under the mat and locked the door behind me. Inside, the air was thick with dust and silence. I checked every room, every closet, every window. Satisfied I was alone, I collapsed onto the couch, exhaustion washing over me. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to cry. Deep, racking sobs that left me hollow and spent. That night, Samantha sent another message. "Publishing tomorrow. Be ready." I barely slept, nerves stretched to the breaking point. At dawn, my phone buzzed again. A link to the story, already going viral. Insurance fraud, murder, and the Meridian Trust, the scandal that could bring down a city. My name was in the article, along with Emily's, Alex's, and a dozen others. The evidence was all there. Documents, emails, photos, bank records. The truth was out, but so was my location. The fallout was immediate. My phone, which I'd kept powered off except for brief check-ins, exploded with messages and missed calls. Reporters camped outside my old house, their vans lining the street, cameras pointed at the empty windows. The police called, asking for statements, for interviews, for any detail I could remember. Friends and family reached out, their voices a mix of concern and disbelief. But I stayed silent, hidden in the safe house, watching the world unravel from behind drawn curtains. The Meridian Trust was everywhere. On the news, in headlines, on social media. Politicians denied involvement, CEOs resigned, and the city buzzed with rumors and outrage. Samantha's article was the lead story on every major network. She'd done it. She'd exposed the rot at the heart of the city, and she'd done it with the evidence Emily and Alex and I had risked everything to gather. But the danger hadn't passed. If anything, it had grown. The Meridian Trust was wounded, but not dead. I knew enough about people like them to understand that a cornered animal is the most dangerous. I'd kept the lights off at night, moved from room to room, never sleeping in the same place twice. I checked the locks, the windows, the shadows outside. Every time a car slowed on the street, my heart hammered in my chest. Samantha kept in touch, her messages terse and encrypted. "Stay put. Police are watching your house. Don't trust anyone." She told me Alex had vanished. No one had seen him since the night at the warehouse. I wondered if he was alive, if he'd managed to disappear as he'd promised, or if Meridian had found him first. Days blurred together. I watched the news obsessively, tracking every development. Arrests were made, bankers, lawyers, even a city councilman. The police raided offices, seized computers, froze accounts. But the leaders of Meridian remained in the shadows, their names never spoken, their faces never shown. I wondered if they were watching me, if they were planning their next move. One night, as I sat in the darkened living room, my phone buzzed with a new message. It was from an unknown number, just a single line. "You can't hide forever." My blood ran cold. I stared at the screen, fear and anger warring inside me. I wanted to run, to disappear, to leave this nightmare behind. But I knew I couldn't. Not yet. The next morning, there was a knock at the door. I froze, every instinct screaming at me to stay silent. The knock came again, louder this time. "Daniel Carter?" "It's Detective Harris, City Police. We need to talk." I crept to the window, peering through the blinds. 2 officers stood on the porch, badges visible, hands empty. I hesitated, then opened the door a crack. "We're here to protect you," Harris said, his voice calm but urgent. "We know you're scared. But you're the key witness in this case. We need your help to finish what you started." I let them in, my mind racing. They explained that the city was in chaos, that Meridian's leaders were on the run, that my testimony could bring them down for good. I agreed to cooperate, but only if they promised to keep me safe. Harris nodded. "We'll do everything we can, but you need to trust us." For the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, the nightmare was ending. The days that followed were a blur of interviews, statements, and endless questions. The police moved me to a secure location, a nondescript apartment in a building with no name on the buzzer, guarded by officers in plain clothes. I was given a new phone, a new name, and strict instructions. Trust no one, speak to no one, except Detective Harris and his team. Every morning, I was debriefed by investigators, lawyers, and prosecutors, each one hungry for details, dates, names, numbers, memories I'd tried to bury. I told them everything I knew, holding nothing back. I gave them the flash drive, the folder, the emails, the photos. I described the night Emily pushed me, the fear in her eyes, the desperation in her voice. I told them about Alex, about the warehouse, about the men who had dragged him away. I watched as they pieced together the puzzle, their faces growing grimmer with every new revelation. Outside, the city was in turmoil. The Meridian Trust's collapse had sent shockwaves through every level of power. Protests erupted downtown, crowds demanding justice, accountability, answers. News anchors speculated about the true extent of the conspiracy, about how many lives had been ruined, how many families destroyed. My name was everywhere, sometimes as a hero, sometimes as a victim, sometimes as a fool who hadn't seen the truth until it was almost too late. I tried not to read the headlines, but it was impossible to escape them. I was the man who'd survived the fall, the man who'd woken up at his wife's funeral, the man who'd brought down a criminal empire with nothing but stubbornness and luck. But the price was high. I was alone, cut off from everyone I'd ever known. My friends and family were questioned, their lives upended by association. My home was still a crime scene, my possessions boxed up and stored in a police warehouse. I spent my days in a borrowed apartment, my nights staring at the ceiling, haunted by memories of Emily, her laughter, her touch, the way she looked at me that last night, torn between love and terror. I wondered if I'd ever forgive her, if I'd ever forgive myself for not seeing the truth sooner. One evening, as the sun set behind the city skyline, Detective Harris visited me. He brought news, good and bad. "We've arrested 3 of Meridian's top lieutenants," he said, his voice tired but triumphant. "We've frozen their accounts, seized their assets. The DA is building a case that will put them away for decades. But the leaders, the ones who gave the orders, they're still out there. We think they've left the country. It's not over, Daniel, not yet." I nodded, feeling both relief and dread. "What happens to me now?" Harris hesitated. "You'll testify at the trial. After that, we'll help you start over. New name, new life. Witness protection, if you want it. It's not easy, but it's safer than staying here." I thought about it long after he left. The idea of disappearing, of leaving everything behind, was both terrifying and strangely appealing. I'd lost so much already. My wife, my home, my sense of safety. What was left to hold on to? But then I remembered why I'd fought so hard, why I'd risked everything to bring the truth to light. Emily's memory deserved better than a lie. The people Meridian had hurt deserved justice, and I deserved a chance to live without fear. The trial began 6 months later. I took the stand, my hands shaking, my voice steady. I told the jury everything, about Emily, about Meridian, about the night I fell, and the day I woke up to a world changed forever. I watched as the men who'd orchestrated so much pain sat stone-faced at the defense table, their eyes cold and empty. I saw Samantha in the gallery, notebook in hand, her gaze fierce and proud. I saw Alex, alive and free, slipping in just before the verdict, a faint smile on his scarred face. When the guilty verdicts were read, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Justice, at last. Not perfect, not complete, but enough. After the trial, I was given a choice: disappear into a new life, or try to rebuild the old one. I chose to move forward, to honor Emily's memory by living honestly, by helping others who'd been caught in Meridian's web. I started speaking at support groups, sharing my story, warning others about the dangers of trust misplaced and love corrupted by fear. I found purpose in the wreckage, hope in the ashes. Sometimes, late at night, I still dream of falling, of Emily's hand on my back, of the world spinning out of control. But I always wake up, heart pounding, breathless, but alive. I survived. I found the truth. And in the end, that was enough. If you've listened this far, tell me where you're listening from in the comments. If you've ever had to rebuild your life after betrayal, share your story. And if you believe that truth is worth fighting for, like this video and subscribe for more stories. Because sometimes, the only way out of the darkness is to walk straight through it, one step at a time.